Hello and welcome to our Bible study of 2 Samuel chapter 18. So we finished by Absalom's plan to overthrow the throne kind of falling apart because his advisor Ahithophel found out that Hushai got in as part of David's team, and when it didn't go to plan, Ahithophel ended his own life. And let's see what happens. It's quite a long chapter, chapter 18, so let's not waste any time. And David numbered the people that were with him, and set captains of thousands and captains of hundreds over them. And David sent forth a third part of the people under the hand of Joab, and set a third part under the hand of Abishai the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and a third part under the hand of Ittai the Gittite. And the king said unto the people, I will surely go forth with you, myself also. But the people answered, Thou shalt not go forth, for if we flee away, they will not care for us. Neither if half of us die will they care for us. But now thou art worth 10,000 of us. Therefore now it is better that thou succour us out of the city. And the king said unto them, What seemeth you best I will do. And the king stood by the gate side, and all the people came out by hundreds and by thousands. Okay, so after they had been refreshed by some of their friends across the Jordan River, David regrouped the army, counted them, and said, okay, let's get ready for the battle with Absalom, and I'm going to go with you. So the true leader that he is, true leader, wanted to go with them. But they were like, oh no, no thank you, because if you go, then we are done for. So again, the good leader that he is, he said, whatever seems best to you, I will do it. So great leader again. Great leader listening to his people. Okay. So as it turns out, David is not going to be on the battlefield against Absalom. Alright. And the king commanded Joab and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Deal gently for my sake with the young man, even with Absalom. And all the people heard when the king gave all the captains charge concerning Absalom. Right, so despite all that was going on and all that Absalom was doing to David, he told his three commanders, be gentle with Absalom. And the authors made it clear that all the people heard this. Okay, this was not done in private, this was public announcement, don't hurt him. So David warned them to be gentle with his son. I mean, that's really compassionate, isn't it? Considering everything that Absalom had done, he'd killed his own brother and now he was trying to overtake the throne. David was back to his lovely, kind ways and said, look, please don't hurt him, which is very sweet. So the people went out to the field against Israel, and the battle was in the wood of Ephraim, where the people of Israel were slain before the servants of David, and there was a great slaughter that day of 20,000 men. For the battle was there scattered over the face of all the country, and the wood devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. And Absalom met the servants of David, and Absalom rode upon a mule, and the mule went under the thick boughs of a great oak, and his head caught hold of the oak, and he was taken up between the heaven and the earth, and the mule that was under him went away. So the battle went well for David's army. I mean, they sadly, but it's difficult with war, isn't it? Because you want to say sadly, lots of people died, but it's David's side winning, so you know what I mean. But then there's like an awful, but I don't want to say comical, but when it's described like this, so because okay, bear with me. Okay, because Absalom's hair is so like thick and luscious and long and beautiful, while he was riding on the mule, his hair got caught up in the branches of the tree. And the mule went off and he was left hanging in the tree by his hair. Oh, is it bad that's comical? It probably is, because I think something bad's going to happen to him. But the imagery of his hair, I mean, actually, if you think about it, it could be, so his hair was part of his beauty, right? And he was using his good looks and his charm to try and overthrow David. And I suppose the irony is that is what ends up harming him. God will use that, the thing that you are so prideful about, he will use that to shame you. Ooh, now that's deep, isn't it? What do you think? Okay, so, oh goodness. I'm going to make a note of that because that's an interesting point that just came to me. God using what was causing pride to humble him. Oh goodness, I've got Absalom floating in mid-air with his hair on the tree. The mule's gone and he's just hanging there. Oh gosh. It can't just be me that finds that funny, right? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stop because I think something bad's gonna happen, so I don't want to be disrespectful. Alright. And a certain man saw it and told Joab and said, Behold, I saw Absalom hanged in an oak. And Joab said to the man that told him, And behold, thou sawest him, and why didst thou not smite him there to the ground? Because David told you not to. And I would have given thee 10 shekels of silver and a girdle. Joab would have bribed him to kill him. Oh. Was willing to bribe him to kill Absalom. I mean, David's instructions were very clear. Not happy about that. And the man said unto Joab, Though I should receive 1,000 shekels of silver in mine hand, yet would I not put forth mine hand against the king's son, good man. For in our hearing the king charged thee and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Beware that none touch the young man Absalom. Good. Loyal to David. And he wouldn't be bribed even for 10 times the amount. No, 100 times the amount. He said, even for 1,000 shekels. Otherwise I should have wrought falsehood against mine own life, for there is no matter hid from the king, and thou thyself would have set thyself against me. Then said Joab, I may not tarry thus with thee. And he took 3 darts in his hand, and thrust them through the heart of Absalom, while he was yet alive in the midst of the oak. No! And 10 young men that bare Joab's armour compassed about and smote Absalom and slew him. I'm disappointed. Wow. So Joab was disgusted with the soldier's loyalty. He was disgusted with the soldier's loyalty, and he took 3 spears and stabbed him and killed him himself. And then 10 armor bearers went and finished him off. That's savage. That's really bad. Okay. And Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing after Israel, for Joab held back the people. And they took Absalom and cast him into a great pit in the woods, and laid a very great heap of stones upon him, and all Israel fled every one to his tent. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and reared up for himself a pillar, which is in the king's dale, for he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance, and he called the pillar after his own name, and it is called unto this day Absalom's place. Oh, so Joab blew the horn to call everyone back from the battle, and then they buried him and put stones over him, but he'd already prepared a place under his name because he didn't have children to take on his name, so he put a pillar there as like a memorial. Back in Jerusalem, had a memorial for himself already. Oh, David's gonna be so mad. Then said Ahimaaz the son of Zadok, Let me now run and bear the king's tidings now that the Lord hath avenged him of his enemies. And Joab said unto him, Thou shalt not bear tidings this day, but thou shalt bear tidings another day. But this day thou shalt bear no tidings, because the king's son is dead. Then said Joab to Cushai, Go tell the king what thou hast seen. And Cushai bowed himself unto Joab. Then said Ahimaaz the son of Zadok yet again to Joab, But howsoever, let me, I pray thee, also run after Cushai. And Joab said, Wherefore wilt thou run, my son, seeing that thou hast no tidings ready? But howsoever, said he, let me run. And he said unto him, Run. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and overran Cushai. So now we've got the awful task of having to tell David that his son was dead. So Ahimaaz was one of David's faithful spies, and he risked his life for the king, asking Joab for permission to take what David thought would be good news. And Joab said, you don't know what you're asking. This is not good news for David. Let Cushai go instead. But he insisted, and he outran the messenger. Oh no, so much sadness. Okay, so Ahimaaz didn't know. Literally a case of shooting the messenger, right? Didn't know what would happen when he delivered the bad news. And David sat between the two gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gate unto the wall, and lifted up his eyes, and looked, and behold, a man running alone. And the watchman cried and told the king, and the king said, If he be alone, there is tidings in his mouth. And he came apace and drew near. And the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called unto the porter, and said, Behold, another man running alone. And the king said, He also bringeth tidings. And the watchman said, Methinketh the running of the foremost, I love that old English, methinketh the running of the foremost is like the running of Ahimaaz the son of Zadok. And the king said, He is a good man, and cometh with good tidings. And Ahimaaz called and said unto the king, Blessed be the Lord thy God, which hath delivered up the men that lifted up their hand against my lord the king. And the king said, Is the young man Absalom safe? Oh, I want to cry. And Ahimaaz answered, When Joab sent the king's servant, and me thy servant, I saw a great tumult, but I knew not what it was. So at first the watchman saw him, and he was encouraged at first. And David asked if Absalom was okay, and then what he did was he changed the story. He knew what happened to Absalom, but instead of saying the truth, he said, oh yeah, I saw something going on, but I don't know what it was. So had he planned all along to let Cushai be the bearer of bad news, or did he just lose his nerve when he had to deliver the bad news? Changed his mind and didn't tell him. Probably just saw the pain in his eyes, when you're about to give someone awful news. It's really sad. And the king said unto him, Turn aside and stand here. And he turned aside and stood still. And behold, Cushai came, and Cushai said, Tidings, my lord the king, for the Lord hath avenged thee this day of all of them that rose up against thee. Yeah, he knows, we won, but the king said to Cushai, Is the young man Absalom safe? And Cushai answered, The enemies of my lord the king, and all that rise against thee, do thee hurt, be as that young man is. And the king was much moved, and went up to the chamber over the gates, and wept. And as he went, thus he said, O my son Absalom, would God I had died for thee. O Absalom, my son. Oh, not gonna lie, I'm getting a bit emotional. Oh, that is so sad. Okay, so Cushai then delivered the message that Ahimaaz was obviously too scared or unwilling to. It seems like the way he said it, it's like Cushai thought that David would be happy about it because he won and he overtook, where is it? It said he overtook the enemies of my lord the king and all that rise up against thee. So Cushite thought David would be pleased. But obviously he wasn't, because he ran to his chamber and just cried and cried. So David's kingdom had been spared. But his son had not. And as we know from a few chapters back, when David was going through his rebellious phase and doing things he shouldn't do, God said, you deserve death, but you're not going to have death. I'll spare your life, but there are going to be other serious consequences. And we're starting to see more and more of them coming about. That's really sad. Alright, well, we'll leave it there because that is the end of the chapter, and then we've got chapter 19 tomorrow. Trying not to read ahead. So yeah, if you've got any thoughts about chapter 18, it was an emotional one. Absalom had been caught. It was, it's an interesting that he used his hair to catch him there, and it made him vulnerable. That's the point, I hadn't thought of that before either. So he was hanging from the branch, which seems like a comical thing, but his hair is what had caught him, his pride, and that made him vulnerable, and then they took advantage and they killed him against David's will. Had David been following the Lord like he was meant to, things probably would have turned out differently. Kind of scary when you think about life like that, isn't it? The decisions we make and our repentance more than anything is really important, because I think the whole point was that David wasn't repenting, which is why things got so bad. So we must remember, let's always remain humble, always try and do the right thing, and when we mess up, which we will because we're human, we must repent and ask for forgiveness and try and do the right thing. Oh, it's a somber way to end that chapter. But yes, I do look forward to reading your comments, and please join me tomorrow when we go through chapter 19. Have a great day. Bye.